Alcatraz. Wow, just saying this word gives me the chills. But why is that? Why is Alcatraz depicted in such a spooky, scary way? Well, the main reason for this is Hollywood. Many different movies about Alcatraz are often said to be scary, thrilling, and even exciting. But don't get me wrong, Alcatraz is pretty scary, especially when all the worst criminals were housed there. That is why many different film directors want to base their movies in Alcatraz because this prison gives off an uneasy vibe that most Americans want. Therefore, Alcatraz has a great influence on different types of media, especially film. Before we begin, we invited one of the greatest historians in the world to give you a brief background lesson about Alcatraz. Alright, hello. Thanks for having me. Now, to begin, Alcatraz is located about 1.25 miles offshore from San Francisco, California. This small island had a variety of different uses. For instance, it started out being an island and had a couple of lighthouse facilities to guide different ships. Then it turned into a military fortification, then a military prison, and finally a federal prison, in which it housed the worst criminals of that time period. But later, the prison closed down because it got too expensive to run, and it was turned into a national park, in which till this day you can still go and visit. The movie Escape from Alcatraz, which was directed by Don Siegel and released on June 22nd, 1979, was all about the life of Frank Morris in Alcatraz. Before starting to analyze the movie, I will give you a brief history lesson on who Frank Morris was. Frank Morris was a famous criminal mainly because he escaped from Alcatraz. But going back to his earlier years, Morris was abandoned by his mother and father at age 11. That point after was a turning point in Morris's life that turned him for the worst. His record of felonies were listed as 2 juvenile delinquency, 2 runaways, breaking and entering 1, 1 burglary, 1 narcotics and armed robbery, 1 unlawful fight, 1 man act and bank robbery. And this was according to the Associates Warden's record card. Therefore, he was sentenced to Alcatraz for life. Now, going back to how Alcatraz influenced this specific movie. First of all, we will start out with the main influence, and that is Alcatraz as a whole. Without the prison, the movie Escape from Alcatraz would never have been made. But of course, this was the easy, no-brainer reason as to how Alcatraz influenced the movie. Now, if we explore deeper into it, we can find a lot more aspects as to how this national prison influenced Escape from Alcatraz. For instance, oftentimes Alcatraz's reputation was brought out to be a prison for the worst of the worst, in which the conditions there are brutal and the environment is horrifying. But fortunately, this exact reputation was perfectly displayed in this movie during many different scenes. One of it, which was in the beginning of the movie when Morris just got transferred into Alcatraz and had to strip down and walk nude in front of all the inmates. I don't know about you, but if that was me, I would have been quite displeased. Another example of the terrible conditions was when Morris was transferred into cell block D, just because he was defending himself from an inmate that had a knife and tried to kill Morris. But the worst part was that cell block D is a cell that has no lighting coming inside, and the way they showered him was by taking a powerful hose and spraying Morris inside his own cell, thus causing him to be wet, cold, scared, and in pain from the hose. Now, unlike Escape from Alcatraz, which was solely based upon events in Alcatraz, The movie The Rock only included Alcatraz, but not during the time Alcatraz was still a full functioning prison, but when Alcatraz was turned into a museum. Fortunately, there were still some major aspects of the movie that the life of Alcatraz influenced. For instance, the scenery of Alcatraz, when the terrorists took over the island, seemed to give off a scary, unpleasant vibe. This same feeling was created ever since Alcatraz first became a prison. It had a reputation of being a highly secured, disgusting prison in which the worst criminals came to rot. Even in the movie The Rock, the tour guide stated that this cell block housed the most awesome scum. But these were mainly the Hollywood versions of Alcatraz. There were a lot of good parts about this prison, one of which was the food. I don't know about you, but I always value a good meal. And it was said that Alcatraz had one of the best meals in the federal prison system. Now, there are movies that had been influenced by Alcatraz and which are quite sad and sorrowful. This movie would be The Birdman of Alcatraz. To begin, Alcatraz was only incorporated into this movie later on because it first starts off with Robert Stroud being in Leavenworth prison. There, he started to take care of birds and study birds altogether. But later on, he got transferred to Alcatraz because he stabbed a prison guard because they wouldn't let his mother visit him. And by being transferred to Alcatraz, this led to him having to leave all his research and his birds behind. Now, this is where Alcatraz starts to have a big influence on the movie. Alcatraz was always known for straightening out their prisoners because of the harshness that was inflicted upon the prisoners. That exact notion was brought upon in the movie and could be seen when Stroud helped the guards against the rioting prisoners by taking the prisoners' guns away. And before coming to Alcatraz, Stroud was said to have been a rebellious inmate. But as you could see, just staying in Alcatraz helped him mold and shape into a better person just because he wanted to leave and go back to his studies of birds. Finally, the movies we analyze today were only the main movies that Alcatraz influenced. There are hundreds of different movies that were influenced by Alcatraz, but if we would analyze all of them, it would take hours. That is why I'm just going to leave it at this. By incorporating Alcatraz into the movies, it gives off an uneasy feeling towards the audience because of the reputation that this federal prison carries. Many people don't understand that this prison was more than just a place that kept the worst criminals in America, but instead, it was a piece of history that shaped different parts of America, especially media. That is why, to this day, you could still go and visit this national park and truly feel the excitement that Hollywood excellently depicts about Alcatraz.